right, welcome, folks. We are back with another week of beer and bullshit. We're at volume 28, almost at the 3-0. We're almost hitting each other's age. Well, at least your age. I don't know. I think we'd have to do this for another, at least 25 more years before we hit mine.
Yeah, we're getting close. 45, 55, something? 55, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost time I retire from the podcast game, after 30 volumes like this. Anyways, this week we've got Mr. Graham Jenner joining us. He'll be hanging out with us in a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're going to wait for his text, and then he'll come join in after we get a chance to chit-chat a little bit about... I guess we can call it debriefing from last podcast.
Got the bends a bit. Got to kind of get back into it slowly.
Oh, man. We had Mayor Steve Black on the podcast last week. And, he was nice enough to share some of his time and come and sit down with us. And I didn't realize so many people really... they just don't like the guy.
Some people had got the hate on. Yeah. Just got the hate on.
We got a lot of feedback on that podcast. It's nice to see that people are still listening. But none of it was positive.
Well, no, we got some positive, but
from who? I got nothing.
Hey, man, I showed up to some stores downtown, and people were very excited and actually asked to be on the next one or be on one coming up in the future. And we got some local people who really want to be on, but there was a vocal group, a proud but but misguided group who I guess really didn't because they didn't like him. They now decided
they didn't like
us, which was awesome, but in a way.
See, I was starting to think, I was starting to wonder if we're on the wrong team here. When I saw this, I was like, maybe we should be hating the mayor. I don't know. I feel like it's funny, and I was talking to you about this before we started the podcast tonight, is that suddenly we've started this, this thing where we're just recording ourselves talking, drinking beer, and we're inviting people who are, doing interesting things, not cutting them off, not letting them talk as long as they want. And suddenly, for some reason, we're part of the media. We're journalists.
We're now journalists.
We have some kind of social responsibility to hold our elected leaders accountable by badgering them with questions. You know what? I think there is a place for that. I don't think that's what we do. That's not what we're setting out to do. We just want to have polite conversation with people.
The way I've always thought about it is that we're giving people kind of an open forum to talk and chat and give us their point of view or their ideas. Even on the last one, me and Steve were talking about provincial stuff. We don't agree on stuff, and I said, "Well, do you really think that?" We still kind of didn't agree with everything about him, but we're not here to have a debate with our guests and go out there. We're giving them an open mic to talk, and we're here chatting.
Exactly.
Hey, guess what? We might not agree with some stuff. We might agree with stuff, and that's what we're doing. We're not, like you said, we're not fucking journalists. We're not here to get the gotcha news conference and interviews. We're just here to let them have an open forum. And this could be politicians, it could be local business owners, it could be whatever, professionals. This is a place they can come and talk and tell us what's going on with them. Are we going to go after our buddy John Kaye and say why we don't like certain music at his place or do whatever? No.
You've been very vocal about that on the podcast.
Yes.
Enough with them damn hardcore bands, he says.
We should talk about that later. No, but it's like you said on the one on that podcast. Fucking deal. It's fuck over it.
Okay, on that comment specifically,
that was awesome.
So some people didn't appreciate that. I guess that was a little bit of a crude way of saying that maybe not all criticisms or complaints are necessarily warranted or valid. I think some people have valid concerns. Even some people who were taking part in the discussion online, which I think is awesome. I think it's good that people get to voice what they want to say and put it out there. You know what? The stuff that stinks to high hell, people get to see it and they get to ignore it, right? Just like this podcast, right? Plenty
of people ignore it. Plenty of people ignore it.
We get the view counts. There are a lot of people ignoring this podcast. But the one thing that I would say is that we're just sitting here in a basement. We bought
our parents' basement, supposedly. That's what I've. That's what I've read.
Apparently, this is my parents' basement. Some dude's parents' basement. Do you know what I thought of when I said that?
What?
I said, yes. Somebody thinks I still live with my parents. All right. So at this point, it's a little early on, but our guest is going to be joining us. Jay's gone to bring him in. All right, so we are back with Mr. Graham Jenner. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to cut this little edit here, but my point was that anybody can start a fucking podcast, and the mayor, they can invite the mayor on, they can badger him with questions all they want, they can say he's being irresponsible, but fact remains, this is what we're doing here. We're having pleasant conversation with people, and today, that segue into our guest, Mr. Graham Jenner. He's an attorney here in Timmins, Ontario, and he's come to join us and talk to us a little bit about how he's come to practice law in Timmins, and maybe we can get his perspective on a few things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can try.
We could try. I like to pick your brain. We here at Beer and Bullshit like to imitate the Adam Carolla show. I don't know if you listen to Adam Carolla's podcast, but we pretty much steal bits from him all the time. And
absolutely.
he does the whole thing where he brings his buddy lawyer in and they talk about
Mark Garagos.
That's who it is, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not familiar, so I won't know when you're ripping him off.
So
good.
Everything. Essentially, just
It's pretty much what we do. So, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
I doing the whole lawyer daddy thing. I was at work and I had to race to the Shoppers to get drops for my kid before coming here. So this is a typical day.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I got two little ones. How many do you have?
Just the one.
Just the one? How old?
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, it's a fun age.
It is.
Except when they get sick.
Which is a lot.
Yes.
Basically, anytime you're anywhere where any other kid has been, like Playland or someone else's house, give it 12 hours and your kid's sick. So.
You know they're going to catch something.
That's right.
Yeah, if you're interested, you can check out Volume 3 to see how that turns out when your daughter gets sick and you're recording a podcast. Makes for interesting situations.
Right.
Anyways, so that said, we're really happy to have you here. And I was just wondering, I was looking through your Facebook and, there's kind of a little bit of an about page there telling us a bit about yourself, but it doesn't really give us the whole story. So if you want to give us, your personal story in a nutshell, how did you come to be practicing law here in Timmins?
So I came to be in Timmins. I'm not from Timmins. I grew up in Southern Ontario, in Oakville and then St. Catharines.
So the USA, really?
Basically.
That's America.
Yeah, that's right. Going to Buffalo Sabres games instead of Toronto Maple Leafs games. That's right. Cheaper and easier. My wife, Carly Stringer's from South Porcupine, so we met after law school. We were practicing in Toronto for a couple of years and then decided that was not for us. We were working all the time, and when we became pregnant, we thought, let's get out of Dodge, and Timmins was a natural place for us to look to set up our families here. There was lots of opportunity. How I ended up in law was, it wasn't expected until close to the end of undergrad. I mean, I was a sort of a science guy coming out of high school, always thought I'd, want to be a doctor or something like that. And then got to university and said, no, I don't really like blood or anything like that. So
kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Tough vocation to get to.
That's right. Got into some sort of like philosophy and legal and logic courses and, went from there.
Okay. So you'd switch majors when you were...
Yeah, I was in a program that really didn't have anything resembling a major. We sort of did a little bit of everything, so that helped. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you basically found an affinity for things like you said, philosophy and things like that, and that's what led you to...
Yeah, I liked, and that's still my favorite thing about law is sort of getting into the nitty-gritty academic side of things, arguing about really sort of almost ivory tower points a lot. That's what drew me to it. I like to, talk about the charter, human rights, things like that. And also, thought if I can make a living out of, basically arguing with people about those kinds of things, then that's for me. And being in law is just about as close as you can get to that. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Or you can have a bad podcast and just argue
true.
with people about nothing.
Yeah, this will be a good second career for you. So
there you go.
It pays extremely poor.
Yeah, extremely poorly. say. But see, I find that interesting that you talked about like the whole ivory tower subjects, right? And I feel like we've had some good discussion and debates on the podcast here about these kinds of things. I always feel like we want to talk about ideas and not necessarily specific situations or anything like that. If we can expand conversation outside of specific situations into ideas, then we can get a better sense of which direction we should be going into. Yeah. Like if we look at this in a societal way, right? So I guess that said, I don't know. We could start on a whole host of issues.
I guess that's the case. Not that. I say first. So what do you practice now? What's your?
So yeah, I only practice criminal defense law.
Okay.
I really right out of articles, which is that year of servitude you do after law school. I was only practicing criminal law in Toronto. I came up here and I thought I might have to expand because it's a smaller market. I was just getting going, but. Found quickly that I was busy enough.
Plenty of criminals here?
Yes. Unfortunately. Well, alleged criminals.
Yeah, it's
See,
true.
I like this. Okay. I like this. He's a defense lawyer.
Plenty of both. So that's all I do. And that's how I want it.
All right.
So on a scale from mostly to completely identical, how much is your life like Better Call Saul?
Oh, man. So sometimes like closer than I'd want it to be. But of course, I am not doing all of the naughty things that Saul Goodman is doing. And he just became Saul Goodman in like the most recent episode, I think.
Yeah, I'm not completely caught up, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the Saul Goodman name has finally made itself known.
Yeah.
The scenes from that show that remind me of my life are, him getting stuck at the courthouse for 14 hours, struggling to get a time for a coffee, everything going wrong with the scheduling of things, because the justice system is like archaic in terms of how it functions. It's not modern at all, right? So those hit close to home, but it's television portrayal of law is rarely known for its accuracy, right?
So you're saying current, I might as well ask the question that you brought up. You're saying systems archaic, and I'm assuming what your answer is going to be, because it always seems to be the same places that we compare to. It's this place is much more modern. Where's it more modern and a bit more quick? Not quick. I guess quick. I guess it's super quick in Saudi Arabia, but for much different
yes.
Justice is swift.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think it's an issue of quickness, right? Like, I
don't
proper,
think, or done right.
Yeah, I don't think that getting the process to work as quickly as possible is the goal. Although, reducing delays is a good thing. In the way we schedule matters, what we work with, we still work with paper. When I get information from the Crown Attorney's office, it's coming over in a stapled together, package of paper, anywhere from 20 to 300 pages long. When we get disclosure of videos, we've moved past VHS, fortunately, but we're still getting things on discs. When you buy a laptop now, it doesn't even have a DVD player. Yeah. We could be moving to much more efficient systems for exchanging information. If you want to talk Timmins, like I serve, and the most lawyers in Timmins serve a huge geographic region, right? Like, I go down, towards Temiskaming, but I also go up to Attawapiskat, Fort Albany, those communities. And we've got witnesses all over the place. We've got accused people all over the place, sometimes in custody, sometimes not. And they always have to be present in court for every little thing. We need to get much better at using video links, audio, remote appearances, electronic appearances. There's so many things we could do to make the system work better, but that's huge investment in infrastructure, right?
Now, are there certain jurisdictions that you could point to say, this could be a good model for that?
Yeah, like they got it right.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are. I don't know though. Okay. It's not something I've looked into. I know that in the U.S. things move much faster, and I think that's a function of having more judges and more, there wouldn't be Crown attorneys there, they'd be district attorneys, but, more money in the system on the prosecution side and the court side. I mean, they just in Ontario hired a bunch of new crowns and judges, but it's a drop in the bucket in terms of overhaul.
It's because all them for-profit prisons don't fill themselves.
There you go. See, I was waiting for like in Finland they got it right, and
sure
Denmark.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they always do.
But when I go to Finland and Denmark, I'm not interested in going to court. I'm more interested in going to a pub or something.
So, like, in general, I think this might be a little bit too lofty of a task to ask, but like most of us haven't really. Well, I don't know. I don't know about Jason, but I've never really had any kind of in-depth involvement with any kind of justice
That's
with the
good.
justice system, and I think exactly that's what I'm kind of hoping to maintain for the rest of my life. But that said, it becomes very unfamiliar, and we start to kind of buy into these TV portrayals of how things are, and I don't know. I feel like the legal profession on TV is, or in any other venue, is really portrayed as this kind of seedy world where people are kind of doing, skirting on the lines of legality.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. The frustrating TV portrayal that I find, like sometimes I'll have a client meet with me, and we'll talk about the case, or we'll talk about the progress, and they'll be disappointed that I'm not being more aggressive or sort of angry or beating my war drums and wanting to pound down the Crown Attorney's door. So a lot of people think that like a good lawyer is someone who is like just ready to, take a bulldozer to the Crown Attorney's office, or is just gonna, throw down in open court. I mean, that's not how it works. Like that kind of advocacy is bad lawyering, right? Like you're not going to get good results either with a judge or with anyone you have to negotiate with if you behave that way.
Yeah, no kidding.
And sometimes people expect it, right? And I don't know what to tell them other than, I guess you could maybe find that other lawyer out there, but be careful what you're looking for.
Does it still exist though? Are there I guess they would be considered the bad actors?
Yeah, I don't think we have that kind of a problem in Timmins.
Okay.
I think we've got a great local bar. But yeah, certainly there's lawyers out there who are prepared to market themselves as more, I'll fight, for you, or they're willing to sort of guarantee a result or something, like, don't worry about this. Like we'll beat this, hands down no matter what. And like, I sometimes have a lot of confidence in the strategy we're pursuing, or sometimes have a high degree of confidence in a trial will go our way. But I'm never going to tell a client like, 100% I'm going to win this for you, right? Or you get your money back. Like that's not how, it would be unethical for me to do that.
Yeah, that seems like the fast food of
But some people
lawyering,
want that, right?
Jim the Hammer Shapiro, Marital commercials.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, I would assume that, it seems a little bit more widespread in the States. You get the commercials that come on during the soap operas. I don't know exactly who they're targeting in those cases, but
Yeah.
My question is, so you did some practicing in the Toronto area.
That's right, yeah.
In comparison, what was like the difference in not crime rate, because you wouldn't really know the rate, but like the cases you dealt with? What was more common in Toronto than here, and vice versa? Like what are the differences, kind of?
Yeah, there's not as many differences as you would expect. That's been my experience at least. So what you don't have here is sort of guns and gangs. Like people in Northern Ontario have guns, and they're normally long guns, and people go hunting with them, and they normally are never an issue. Or when they are an issue, it's because, maybe someone's threatened to use one, or someone has one out for an unsafe purpose, usually, where they're going to harm themselves or something, and the police are involved because it's a dangerous situation. Whereas in Toronto, you have sort of more handguns and that kind of stuff. But you have a lot of the same stuff. I mean, you got, people drink and drive here. People, there's domestic incidences here. There's a lot of alcohol fueled,
The Boisson household. That's what it's talking.
sounds about right.
So a lot of that's the same. I mean, some particular things to like the north here, we're a bit of a corridor between northern Quebec and western Canada. So you see some sort of movement of controlled substances, through our highways that aren't necessarily originating here. You see some sort of trafficking that is sort of targeting the coastal reserve communities. But other than that, there's not a huge difference.
See, I was going to ask about that, the whole drug thing, because I feel like we get you see notifications like a new news story every what seems like a couple times a week on Facebook that comes up that says so and so charged with possession for the purpose of
trafficking,
trafficking, exactly, right? And it seems like there's so much of that going on, but I guess the media will choose what kind of crimes are highlighted, or
I think you see a lot of stories at the when people are charged with something, because it's really like affordable reporting. You don't have to send anyone to report on anything or investigate anything. You just get the police officer's press release and you put it in an article, and maybe do a little bit of follow up. But you see those articles, and you don't see very much about the outcome of actual trials. Some, right?
So the high profile ones.
Yeah. So
right?
in the media, you see a lot of very beginning of criminal matters, but not the end, which is, I think, unfortunate. But I think in a place like Timmins, everyone's reading those stories because they're more likely to know someone involved, because it's a small town, right? Where, if you're in Brampton or Hamilton or Ottawa, those are anonymous names to most people.
And in most cases, they will remain anonymous.
Yeah. So,
forever, right?
Here in Timmins, everyone knows someone or a friend of someone's. And so, those stories get shared on Facebook. There's comments on Facebook, so they're in more people's feeds.
And it's often people who know the person or know the name involved, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the topics that definitely, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, is the whole idea of the court of public opinion and how that weighs into the actual mechanics of a trial, right? Like this idea, especially in a town like Timmins, right, where people are charged, and then based on reputations, based on people knowing each other, it just seems like some kind of judgment is already fomenting before there's any kind of trial even beginning.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
I think that happens. There's things that I can do there's some things I can do as a lawyer to try and help people avoid or mitigate that. I can certainly make some efforts to, avoid a busy day in court where there's more likely to be a journalist there for when my client is pleading guilty to something, right? I mean, within parameters. I can write, I don't do this often, but I can sort of write journalists to say, I think you should clarify this, or, this is a bit misleading in that initial sort of charge article. But what I'm more often telling clients is, most of what I can do for you is to win or try and win the case in court, and the only thing that the criminal justice system is doing is deciding whether or not it's convinced you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and whether it can attach a penalty to that because of it. The judge can't tell you whether you did it or not. He can only tell you whether, to the state's satisfaction you did it, and you can be put in jail or fined. Even if you're acquitted, there will always be some people who will think you did it.
See, that's an important thing I feel like you're touching on a really important thing there that I don't think a lot of people understand, right? They feel like the justice system is either a judgment coming from the justice system is either absolute or it's bullshit, right? Yeah. And I feel like if they don't if people don't necessarily understand that that's what it means, is that either the prosecution has met a bar to say that yes, beyond a reasonable doubt, you have been convicted of this crime, and we can attach this penalty to it. That's all that's being determined. There's no the only people that will know if something actually happened is the people involved, and that's a fundamental issue that the justice system, I guess, is trying to deal with, right?
And people, are concerned sometimes in some cases about what their family members think, their friends think, and I tell them, there will be some people that will, follow the result in court, and there'll be others who've made up their minds and are either with you or against you, based on how they're perceiving things. There's some things like, I hate to take the sort of classic OJ example, but OJ was acquitted, and then he was, basically found to have done it in civil court, right? Like the family of the victim sued, and were able to prove on a balance of probabilities that he was guilty, but that's a different standard than criminal. And similarly,
and he's been fine ever since, right?
Yeah,
nothing bad has happened since.
Nothing,
right?
nothing at all.
I think history showed us who's right there.
Yeah. Who's right?
Thank you.
Anyways, no, it's interesting to have those discussions about like the legal system in general, because I feel like it's not something that most people give much thought to on a day-to-day basis. And I think if people had a better understanding of the imperfections of it, and just the imperfections that really, I don't know, until we get some kind of mind-reading technology, they're going to remain there.
Yeah, it's not a perfect system, and it's frustrating when people sort of subscribe to it like that, because it's we'll never have a system. I don't think we'll ever have a system where all guilty people are found guilty and all innocent people are acquitted, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
let's get a Minority Report type of situation going.
Yeah, pre-crimes, right?
Yeah, get a precog in there.
I think one of the hot issues that I feel like, well, this is more of an internet issue that I wanted to get your perspective on in preparing for this, was the whole idea of freedom of speech, because this has come up many times when we've sat here and talked, and maybe I just don't know to what extent speech is protected here in Canada versus some like headline making country like the United States, but it seems like it's pretty enshrined over there, and I don't know, if you listen to the right wing pundits in Canada, they tell you that free speech is dead here.
Yeah, I don't agree with those guys. I mean, we do have a charter right to freedom of speech. It's like all our charter rights, not absolute. I mean, I think most people have a fairly good idea of our charter, but it has its nuances, and one of those is that under Section 1 of the charter, every right is guaranteed, but it can be derogated from if there's a justifiable reason, and there's a whole test that's developed over the last 30 years to, well, it was developed 30 years ago, but it's been tweaked since, to justify a right to be infringed to a degree or impaired to a degree. And I think there are situations, and this is something that the Supreme Court also, they're not agreeing with me, I'm agreeing with them.
I said this in the Supreme Court, like, that Graham guy's right.
Yeah. Where something like freedom of speech should be limited, or is limited in Canadian law, is when it's interfering with another right. And there are situations where speech, like other acts, can be very harmful or deadly, right? That's why we have hate crimes. So there's that aspect of it. It's not an absolute right. We don't have any absolute rights in Canada. Now, I think what really frustrates me when people talk about freedom of speech is that people think that freedom of speech means you can say whatever you want and there are no consequences, right?
Yeah.
Freedom of speech, to me, means you can say what you want and the government can't persecute you for it. Mm-hmm. The government can't, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that you can, go on a bigoted rant or racist or homophobic rant and like keep your job. Yep. Because your employer can say, that's not the kind of person I want working for me. So freedom of speech doesn't mean consequence-free speech.
Yes. And I think that's an important distinction to be made. I think the idea of wanting people to be silenced in public forums, I think that's where it's becoming, I guess, a little bit difficult, because where do you draw that line of what's a public forum? And essentially everything's owned by someone, right? Like wherever you're talking is owned by someone.
No, I think that's a major issue. And like I don't want you to get me wrong. I don't want you to think that I'm some sort of, I'm on some mission against freedom of speech. Like, what's one thing that's really
we hear you loud and clear. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn your mics off for you. So, like, one thing that's been in the media around criminal law recently is, you're probably familiar with Marie Hennen, Jean Gamesh's lawyer.
Yes.
And there's been instances of her being, having speaking engagements at universities and student groups on campus trying to say, well, that's not, appropriate. And that's, to me, a little bit scary because, many people might not agree with a lot of things she has to say or have, real concerns about, sexual assault and the justice system. But like, my God, it's university, and this is like leading, possibly the best, certainly the most well-known criminal defense lawyer, currently practicing, at least in Ontario, if not Canada. Why she wouldn't be able to speak at a university of all places is mind-boggling to me, right?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that, and I think that's the problem that a lot of people have been having, especially the fact that universities, and I think that's where the argument kind of gets tied to the government, is when universities are funded in part by the government, that people have an issue with saying, like, okay, this place is getting part of our tax dollars, and people that we invite to speak there can't speak.
Yeah.
And so where do you draw that line of saying, okay, well, it's an arm's length relationship between the university and the government, and there are so this place is essentially, I don't know, like, do the students have a right to? Are they exercising their freedom of speech and shutting people's speeches down? I feel like it's a whole convoluted issue, and if people just kind of were willing to just listen to each other. And you could disagree. You disagree very strongly, but
you don't have to listen to each other. You can just not.
You can ignore.
You cannot hang out with the people you don't want to hang out and listen to. True. But to say that your other students who may be very interested in hearing something can't hear it because their presence on campus makes you uncomfortable. That's of concern.
Again, like universities are supposed to be, these are places of higher learning, higher education, where you're supposed to be developing minds, developing ideas, and being able to debate these things. And when you set a place where you cannot listen to this other half of the political spectrum because we will shut this down, you're not growing and you're not actually developing anyone whatsoever. That becomes a huge issue.
Okay, but I'll throw something out into that. If the people who are wanting to shut this type of speech down are claiming that this is hate speech, and this is the type of speech that is a direct affront to their rights. Now, you spoke to a test, right?
So hate speech so rarely comes up in criminal law that I can't speak as like an expert on it.
Yeah, okay.
My understanding of this is going to be limited to remembering back to law school and occasional research afterwards. But I mean, the line, I think, is where your speech is inciting some sort of harm to someone, right? So speaking out at a university about how women aren't as good in whatever respect as men, which I don't agree with, obviously, but that's different than saying members of a particular religious minority are terrorists, and if you see them walking in the street, you should be not letting them in your neighborhood or forcing them out. Or I mean, that's where you've crossed over into something very different, where you're advocating, other criminal offenses against people based on whatever status. And
there's a call to action.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And I, you know what? I'm sure that line is really blurry sometimes. Right? That's hard.
Yeah.
But,
because some people will point to even recent acts of hate crimes, or you want to call it domestic terrorism, whatever, and say, well, these people were clearly inspired by this type of speech, right?
Yeah.
And no, I feel like it's we were talking about ivory tower arguments. It's one of these things that people can kind of just go back and forth with from the ivory tower, but when it comes down to the actual real world consequences, it's these are things that need kind of clear interpretation, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like
you're just looking at me.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jay. Anyways, Jay's the hate speecher in. He's the guy who's always going on these
racial tirades. Yeah, that's Jason's MO. Totally Jason's MO.
So that said, I don't know what's been going on this week. I feel like we've gotten to know Graham a little bit, but I feel like there's some big stuff that's happened in the news this week that I would love to get everybody's perspective on. Obviously, one of the biggest things that's happened is the Liberals announced the sweeping changes to the labor rules.
Yeah, minimum wage.
Yeah, so everybody's getting their minimum wage boost. This is a big boost. I feel like there's been a lot of increases in minimum wage in the past 5 to 10 years, and they've all been cents. Yeah. And now things are moving up there a couple bucks. So I think people got their 15, and they're feeling pretty happy about it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
It's a little bit delayed though, right? It's 2019, is it? Or does it go up?
Yes,
it'll be 2019.
Right. Yeah, it is 2019. 2 years.
It's just after the election. First, I do think obviously there is a bit of a a political gaming ship that they're doing here. Like, obviously bring us in to attract a voting base. One thing, and this is my theory, and I still think it's going to happen. It seems like time is running out on my theory here, so I might not win on this. But my theory is 6 to 7 months before the next provincial election, Wynne steps down, new leader, a Liberal Party comes up. They say, you know what, that was the old Liberal Party. We're new, we're fresh. We understand those are issues. We apologize for those. We're going to fix it. Here are the new things they're doing, like minimum wage, like this, like that, hydro cuts, blah, blah, blah. I'm here to bring that. I was the driving force behind these things. I think these are the right thing to do. Vote for us, vote for us, vote for us. That was the old Liberals. We're the new. And just exactly what happened when she took over from McGuinty. Exactly the same playbook. I have a feeling we're going to see the same thing. That's my guess to that. Regardless, back to minimum wage.
That's interesting though.
If I'm right, I'll seem super smart.
I think that's most of their playbook. Except I don't think you're going to see a leadership change. No. Because the difference is McGuinty was really bogged down in a very direct scandal, whereas she's just bogged down in sort of, we all hate how much we're paying for hydro, right?
Yeah, but that's a big one though.
Yeah, it's a big.
No,
one.
It's a big issue, but it's not the same sort of she's done something wrong.
Yeah,
right.
I'm surprised that the PCs aren't pressing harder on this whole stuff that went on in Sudbury with the by-election.
I just don't think they have the leadership for it. I don't think that. I really don't find
Brown. That's a good point.
Could be a matter of timing too, right?
Yeah,
true.
Still early days.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's back to the whole minimum wage thing. I feel like you're absolutely right that there's a political kind of angle to it, like there is with everything any government does. But I was having a discussion online with our previous guest, Mr. Adam McKay, and he's obviously a proponent of this.
That hippie.
Yeah. But I feel like in thinking about it, the more I think about it, the more I don't have an opinion on it. I feel like it's no one can really say if it's going to be good or bad, because it's going to be good for some people, it's going to be bad for other people. It's going to hit some people now, it's going to hit some people later. And I think I just don't necessarily see this as any kind of fix. I think we're going to be talking about upping the minimum wage in 10 years from now. And we'll still be talking about upping the minimum wage because I don't know, in my limited understanding of economics, I think it just increases inflation.
Yeah. Well, I saw on my way over here, I was on Facebook, and there was a meme of someone working at McDonald's handing a tray to the customer saying, here's your meal, that'll be $54.97 or something. I guess not 97 because we don't have pennies anymore. But and the idea was, here's what you're going to pay for your McDonald's because of this minimum wage in Ontario. And I'm not an expert on this, but everything I've read about studies of minimum wages, that's such an alarmist, not real thing. I mean, prices go up by very small amounts compared to what your buying power does. But I agree with you. I would be more interested in seeing things that are more directly connected to full-time jobs and more secure employment for folks, because you're seeing just so many people struggling with multiple part-time jobs with no benefits, or not knowing how long their job is going to last,
or sick leave.
Yes, and there is some of that. There's more protections like this.
Yeah.
We've been focusing on this minimum wage thing, but there's a lot more reforms that have happened as well. There's more protections for part-time and contract workers, which I think that if you're being honest here and of good faith in conversation, you can't really say that that's a bad thing. The minimum wage thing, I can see how some people might. I think there's an argument to be made. I do agree when you mention that everything that you've read about it seems to be that prices going up is an alarmist thing, but prices do go up. Prices go up all the time, right? And people kind of factor that in as a constant. And the reason why prices go up is because of this inflation that's driven by increased demand. And when you give a whole bunch of people more money and we haven't increased productivity, then prices will automatically over time go up, right? So it just feels like that part of it is I think the people who are kind of putting out the memes of saying tomorrow your burger's going to cost you $20, they're not. I don't even think those people have a real understanding of why this is going to cause prices to go up. It'll cause prices to go up in the long term, and then that's why we're going to have to talk about an increase in minimum wage later on, which is why we've had to talk about an increase in minimum wage for so many years, right? It's why people are still not being paid $2 an hour.
Well, I was listening to Ontario Today, which I do at every lunchtime. That's my
The host
thing.
is so boring, though. This is coming from like a second-rate podcast.
Who's the host right now? I've had Sirius for a year now, so I'm never listening to the CBC
it is
anymore. But
You caught in the trap.
Rita
Shelley.
Rita Shelley. I like her.
There's her. Oh, I like her too. And once in a while there'll be other ones too. They switch them up because someone's sick or whatever. But the debate, they had the head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, or for Ontario or Canada, I'm not too sure. And they had, I can't remember what she was ahead of, but I was like, pay the right wage now type group. I got to say, the I guess quote unquote progressive of the two did say something that I thought was actually a very good line, was that the minimum wage is supposed to be the floor, the absolute floor of paying someone, not the guideline and the rule that people should be following, saying, oh, well, this is the least we can pay someone, let's pay them this. They're saying you cannot pay anything less than this. It's not a guiding light. You should not be paying, like, your idea shouldn't be paying all these people. And then you see these companies doing the fair, living wage rules, like self-imposed, and they say productivity goes up, people work better, they stick around longer because they're actually making a few extra bucks.
I think it's a culture problem, though, because people with income that they can spend, I guess, discretionarily, they can they still choose to get the most bang for their buck. And when you start buying cheap goods and replacing stuff that's still good in your home, you're like, you shop at the Walmarts and the Canadian Tires of the world. Not to hate on them, I still shop there, but it's part of our culture, right? That's what we do. And if we spent our money in places that employ skilled labor and allowed those companies to grow to occupy a larger share of the economy, you wouldn't see this kind of emphasis on hiring. All right, now, Walmart is hiring 100 people to man their store because they need to meet the demand of all the people shopping at Walmart, right? So it's just kind of this cycle. So I think we have to make a conscious choice to start spending our money where we want our economy to grow. And unfortunately, we've all kind of fallen into that trap of saying, oh, well, what, if I can get this for $5 cheaper at a big box store, I'm going to go buy it at a big box store.
But look at what we've done with beer. Craft beer in Ontario is taken off. You pay more for it. I would argue better product, so people want to buy it, and it's that economy or that industry is taken off. Which so does society really want to only buy the cheapest? Or is there a large enough demographic that wants a good quality?
I think we have to make a conscious choice to do it. Like, I don't know. I like the example I used when I was talking with Adam was, if what you did, instead of having somebody who made minimum wage sell you a new TV at Best Buy, you had your old TV repaired by a TV repairman. That's a pretty dated reference here, but that person, both of those people would be paid very differently, right? Yeah. So we have this kind of use and chuck culture right now that I don't know, if we want to see the economy grow in a different way, I would argue that far more than raising the minimum wage, where if we start spending our money in a way that encourages the hiring of more skilled labor people, encourages more people to go get qualified to do that kind of skilled work, then we'll see a lot more.
And most of those businesses are local, right? So you're also keeping the money in Timmins, right?
Exactly.
Instead of sending it to wherever Walmart has their headquarters, I guess. I don't know where that is. Wisconsin or something? I don't know.
Yeah. The moon.
It's one of those layers from
Since I did mention beer,
yes, you
we
did.
should
what are we
probably describe our beer or introduce what beer we're having today.
It's pretty good.
Today we're having Collective Arts, their beer Prophets and Nomads. It is I'm going to say this wrong. I apologize. It's either, I was looking up the pronunciation. It's either Goza or Goze.
Gozer,
or Goes.
I told you.
Yeah, or Goes. So I'll say Goes. Anyways, our Goes is an unfiltered wheat beer made with malted wheat. This creates a unique cloudy yellow color and provides refreshing crispness and tang. Our Goes has a low hop bitterness and features coriander. Sorry, almost got that wrong. Coriander, and Himalayan salt. I always get yelled at saying like, you should practice these for. I'm like, I do read them, then I just forget. Adding hints of complementary dryness, spice, and touch of sharpness to the beer. It's so as I said, it's a type of wheat ale, kind of as it goes. Recommended in a Weissenglass, and is a 4.5%. IBUs of 12. It's not very bitter at all. I've always talked about really enjoying wheat ales. I find they're if you want something easy to drink, like in the summer, I like them. I think it's easy. I can drink a whole mess of them.
Sure.
Rated very good, or an 85 on Beer Advocate. So, Graham, what do you like? How do you like them?
I drink, well, I like wheat beer. But this one does have, like, the word that jumped out at me in your description off the label was tang. It's got sort of a tang you don't expect. And so I feel like this is a beer you really have to be in the mood for. Like, you have to be reaching for intentionally. So, like, it's maybe like an 8 if you're going for it. But if you're not there, it's like a 6.
Yeah, I can see that.
See, he rates the same way Jay does. Yeah. Jay always says you have to rate it like if it's a wheat, like along the lines of wheat beer, and I have such a hard time with that. It's always,
if you want a stout, you got to rate it as a stout. You know, like if you
I haven't had that many stouts.
There you go. But if you want a wheat ale and the only thing that has a stout, you're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's the tang, though.
Jay gets mad at the dehumidifier running. You can shut it off if you want.
I'll reach over in a second.
All right. Anyways, my rating for this one, he's right about the tang, though. It's very full-bodied still for what would still be a pretty light beer. So I'd give it a 7.
Yeah. I'd probably be close to that. I find there is like I was saying, there's a dryness. It's almost like there's a dryness like you would have in a white wine, kind of. I find you would get that a bit. But I would happily drink like
2 dozen?
A few. I would happily do it. But yeah, I do think this is a nice summer beer. If you want something in the winter, it's not something you'd be happy about. It's not something you'd be drinking at the hockey game.
No, that's true. Yeah.
But I would give it a good 7.5.
What was it called again?
Prophets and Nomads. But I gotta say,
cool.
Everything from Collective Arts I've actually really enjoyed. John and I did a little visit. You probably saw some pictures on the Facebook page.
Yes,
we did a little visit, and actually we were really awesome to be there, and we tried a whole mess of them. And I gotta say I did really enjoy this one. And there was another one. I can't remember what the other one I liked. I think it was just their number 2 IPA. Oh. It was pretty solid. And,
we'll have to try that next week.
Yeah, we might have to.
Right on. So that's the beer that we're drinking tonight. Collective Arts, Prophets and Nomads. Right on. No, it's really good. So, moving on to other things tonight. I don't know, Jay, did you prepare anything else?
Well, we can talk more new stuff, or we can do a fantastic game. So, what do you want to do?
I actually did my homework tonight, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Trump withdrawing from the climate accord.
So I think we should talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think this just gonna lead to a longer discussion.
You think so?
So I say we do the game, we get that done, we get into the discussion, and we can go as long as we want.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes is always fun.
We can throw stuff at each other and get upset and call each other fat and whatever.
It's because I'm a climate change denier. Just so.
Well, you just haven't seen the proof yet, right? That's the thing.
I'm also a flat earther. So.
I'm a hollow earth believer.
Just don't ask me about vaccines.
Don't talk to me about vaccines. Have you ever gone down those YouTube rabbit holes of like flat earth stuff?
Oh, all that stuff. Flat earth. I'm saying I love the hollow earth though. That's still my favorite.
I don't know. I'm not
hollow
familiar
earth.
With hollow earth.
You don't know about the 2 entrances at the poles that you can get inside the earth, and after so many traveling so far into it was actually a movie, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Anyways, you get so far in, then suddenly you can walk along the inside of the crust, and the center of the Earth acts like a sun. And in this inside the Earth, there's all species that we haven't seen, aliens or dinosaurs are still alive.
It's where all the lizard people
the
are
Nazis ran there and hid there. They took their subs into there, and it's all this crazy stuff. And that is a thing that people believe this. And because you would think, well, wouldn't you, if you walked in, wouldn't you just keep going to the center? Well, I guess the idea that you'd be closer to the thickness of the crust, that you would get pulled away because you're attracted to the largest object. Inversely,
but that largest object is in every direction.
But that's the thing. But you're still closer there. It's proportional to the products of masses, but also the distance between them.
That's crazy.
There's some little part of me that wishes I
true.
lived in this kind of world where that I kind of believed all this stuff, because their lives must be so fascinating.
Oh, yeah. The stuff they're reading, it's just like amazing,
and it's all like veiled in this religious kind of doctrine, right? Like, the humans are the center of the universe, and this is how we know there's a God out there that's controlling everything. It's interesting. Anyways,
all right, so
take us to Rotten Tomatoes.
We're gonna do a Rotten Tomatoes game. I'm not sure if you know what the Rotten Tomatoes game is.
You probably refresh me here.
So what it is I will describe a film and the title, and then the two of you will throw out what you believe the Rotten Tomatoes score is.
So is the Rotten Tomatoes score the one that like the critics use, or is that like the user?
There's critics and audience. We're going by the critics. So if it's certified, fresh, or whatever,
critics.
and it'd be a 95% or whatever.
All right.
If you get right on the money, we get a 5-point deduction. Oh, so it's whoever's the low score at the end of this wins. Corey has a fantastic streak of being horrendous at this. So the theme today was
I like bad
movies about lawyers.
All right.
So
I should preface this by I avoid all media that's about lawyers.
well,
especially television.
Too bad.
This should be good. No, this is movies. So
okay.
Movies. All right. Let me find this. This 1993 drama about it's a best-selling novel of John Grisham's and Mitch McDear's. Is a young man from a poor Southern family who has struggled through Harvard Law School and graduated with 5th in his class.
5th.
Yes.
Could have made it.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
Anyways, gets into being a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. It's starring Tom Cruise, The Firm.
I remember that being popular.
It's a young Tom Cruise.
In what year?
93.
93.
Well, he was big then, right? So that's gonna bump up the score.
Fresh off a Top Gun.
Oh yeah, best scene in Top Gun was shirtless volleyball playing. Yet they're all wearing super tight denim, and I don't get it. I need the movement up top, but my bottom tight as hell. I don't give a shit.
The internet is saying that there's a sequel in the works.
or sequel. Yeah, sequel, because it's not a remake. It's gonna be a sequel.
A sequel to Top Gun starring Tom Cruise.
Super old. Val Kilmer's still around. Just can't fit in his flight suit because he's fat as shit.
Should check what that score was. Anyways, The Firm. You want to take this one? Take the lead?
Well, I'm thinking, I haven't seen it, but I'm thinking Tom Cruise. I've heard of it. I'm going to give it a 78.
Okay, 78.
I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to give it an 87.
87.
So remember, I'm terrible at this.
The Firm is certified fresh at 75%.
Wow, man. All right, that was close. I was way off. I thought certified fresh had to be over 80.
I thought that was 90s.
You're setting the bar pretty low over there at Rotten Tomatoes.
This is a 2011 film starring... I'm not going to say the star yet.
He's going to give it away.
Yeah, let's give it away. It's a legal thriller of a low-rent defense attorney named Mickey Haller. Most of the time, Mickey barely keeps his head above water, representing low-life clients and working out of the back of his car. This 2011 film starring Matthew McConaughey, the Lincoln lawyer.
Jesus. This is a movie.
Was that before the reconnaissance, or right in the middle of
I
it.
think it was
Yeah, I think this was.
the kind of sauce. I like
That's
that.
good.
I like that. I should probably be early because 2011.
Yeah.
That's a little early.
I'm gonna say, since I saw 75 on the last one, let's say I won't get so generous. 72.
72.
I'm going to go with 80.
80. The Lincoln Lawyer is certified fresh at 83.
What? All right.
Graham's just killing it.
Yeah.
All right, my computer's being a little slow here. Give me a second. I might have to just say the year. Jesus Christ. All right. Ooh, this one, fantastic film. I think. I've always liked it. It's the 1992 film. It's fast-talking, charming Navy defense attorney must prove that a pair of Marines are innocent of murdering a fellow fighter in this taut and provocative courtroom drama. Starring Tom Cruise, Josh Nicholson, and Demi Moore, and super young, hot Demi Moore, too.
You think that makes him a real lawyer?
He's done so many movies that he must.
He must be. Must have picked some stuff up along the way.
Exactly.
How much school is really required?
Just like Steven Seagal must be a ex-Navy SEAL, right?
Oh, we got to do a Rotten Tomatoes game with just Steven Seagal
movies
one day.
Just 6%, 5%. All right, so the movie is A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men.
All right, so
I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 90.
90.
Ooh. Well, Jason, I think 88.
Are you sure that we can handle the
what?
Truth on this one?
Can
Brutal.
we handle it?
Brutal.
Ooh.
I was leaving the door open there. I was like, if he doesn't say it, I'm saying it.
I didn't catch it. Sorry. So the proof about this one, if you can't handle it or not, is A Few Good Men, certified fresh, at 81%.
Nice. All right, I'd take one of them.
This
least.
next one, I do believe we might have done it before, actually.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Okay.
It's a film, 1993 again. We're kind of sticking that era almost.
Made
It's
a lot of lawyer films.
embroiled in an affair. Thomas Callahan, her alcoholic professor of a precarious 24-year-old Tulane University law student, Darby Shaw, raised up an insightful theory about the recent murders of two Supreme Court justices. It's this fantastic drama, mystery, suspense, The Pelican Brief.
I suggested this one, and I'm listening to you talking. I'm like, I have no idea what this fucking movie.
I think we've done it before.
Pelican Brief. I'm gonna say 72.
Yeah, I'm going to go in at 70.
That's it.
Pelican Brief is rotten
What?
at 53%.
I was gonna say, all of
Julia
this is
Roberts.
proving that's true, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was gonna say that all of this is proving that they don't make bad lawyer movies. But I guess
Julia Roberts, Denzel Washington, Sam Shepard. There's some.
Well, we haven't had
decent
Legally
actors.
Blonde yet.
Ah,
You know what? I was going to do it, but I didn't. I should have.
yeah, that'd have been cheap. I wonder what. You know what? I bet you Legally Blonde probably has a pretty good rating. Wasn't the second one a terrible movie? It was just the fact they made two of those things.
Just the second one.
Hey, come on.
Come on.
All right, am I
All right.
showing my colors here?
And a musical.
And a musical.
Yes.
Really? I didn't know that.
All right. So this next one is a 2005 film about two divorce attorneys who find out the hard way that sneaking into the wrong party can cause serious problems in this comedy. The film's 2005 film starring Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson in The Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, this is a good movie.
So, comedy. It's comedy big, comedy
Yeah.
bad.
Just Will Ferrell's cameo in that movie probably makes it 99.9.
Because that's what the critics go for.
Of course.
Yeah, this is one where I think like the critics number is going to be very different than the user number.
You think so? Yeah, we could check that. I think, I don't know. You know what? I always thought about that because we did one. I think you had a Will Ferrell movie when we did it with Adam McKay, right? You said it was.
Well, we only did.
Yeah,
Adam
I'm
McKay
pretty sure
movies.
they were all Will Ferrell movies. So there was a Ballad of Ricky Bobby, and we thought like, oh, yeah, the critics are gonna hate this, and it ended up being pretty high.
You can never tell. Like, do they
Surprised
like
me.
comedies? But I think it depends what type of comedy and who.
I'm going to go 65.
65.
I go 83.
So, Wedding Crashers is certified fresh at 75.
Man, that's you went out on a limb there, and I think that I may have caught up with that last one.
Ooh. Well,
Is it looking bad? Yeah, the first couple were pretty bad.
all right. So, Corey, happy to know that you actually got a decent score of 57.
Okay.
But was 57 enough to take first? It was not. Top score.
I didn't think
goes
so.
Graham at 42. It was actually pretty close.
Well done.
All right, good job. So this only asks, there's only one question to be asked next to this. Who is, and Corey and I have talked about this before ad nauseum.
Jay's got a good theory.
Who is the single best lawyer in movie history? And I have a definite answer.
Yeah, well, there's one. I feel like there's one, like, obvious choice, and that's Atticus Finch.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Now you're going to give your
I'll tell you why.
Your reasoning.
Why mine?
See,
my
yours is
pick-
much more eloquent.
Yes, I'll tell you why mine's better. It's who, and we don't actually
Is
know.
it Legally Blonde? I don't know her name, but
We don't exactly know who the lawyer was. They don't really talk about who the actual lawyer
No.
is. But
I think he was representing himself.
He might have been representing himself, but there was a lawyer who got pulled over for DUI, and his only punishment was to coach a peewee hockey team in Minnesota. So whoever's lawyer was Emilio Estevez's lawyer in that film is the single greatest lawyer of all time.
Coach
And
Bombay's lawyer.
that
Can we call the Mighty Ducks a film?
yes, or no, it's documentary really.
Yes.
Yeah. So really,
Because Team Iceland would be who you face off in the World Championships.
Junior Olympics,
The
thing.
Goodwill Games.
Goodwill Games.
You win a Pee Wee championship one year, and the next year
You're representing the USA.
and a few players get cut from the team, disappear forever, and suddenly they get all these all-stars from all over the globe.
Random freaking inner city, hockey, rollerblade hockey teams.
Rollerblade
Is that how he starts, though? Like, I can't
Yeah.
remember the beginning
He
of
gets pulled over DUI in his sports car, literally with cans like fumbling around in his vehicle, and his boss says, "Oh, we're able to get you a deal. You just have to do some." Or the judge was a big fan of hockey or something. You got to go coach this Pee Wee hockey team in the middle of where's District 9 or District what district? Again?
District 5.
District 5.
and make sure that
District
they never wear their helmets unless they absolutely have to.
Oh, yeah. No face mask. They're wearing football helmets, like the kicker cage on a football helmet, and they're playing that. I never said
That
and that's
ruins,
what
that ruins every
ragtag
hockey movie, though, right? I mean, the fact
Yeah.
that you have to wear like a full helmet
Yeah,
in
you
your
can't
kid,
do
that
it.
ruins every hockey
And they always had. They then later switched to just visors. They had the full visors, like
So you could see the kid's
so you
face.
see the face. Yeah,
But I never realized, was it those kids actually playing hockey?
I don't know.
I think Joshua Jackson could play,
He's from
right?
Canada, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because when you watch them skating in the warm-ups without their helmets on,
Yeah.
like he seemed like he knew what he was doing. But what was hilarious is you'd watch Emilio Estevez skate on the
Yeah.
outdoor
It was someone
rink
else.
at one point, and they would like zoom in on his legs,
Yeah.
and it would just like, oh, okay, this guy's got form. Or like when he was not facing the camera, it's like, okay, yeah, this guy can skate. And then they would see him like facing the camera, and he would just be gliding.
Yeah, not
side
doing
to
anything.
side. You could tell he had some kind of like skating coach for a couple hours before that.
But I feel like even the kids that they had on, if they were actors, like if they were just sub-ins, like
Yeah.
some Canadian kids they got, they weren't that good. Like
No.
the skating was terrible. in the movies.
Well, they did get better as the movie.
Yes.
as the movie went
Come on,
They
there
beat
was
the
a
Hawks.
There was a montage. The Hawks.
Goldberg could only go up, right? So
Julie the cat.
So that said, it's great that we're talking about hockey because you do have a little bit of an interesting hockey connection.
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Your sister is an Olympic gold medalist.
She is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And her name?
Brianne
Jenner. Man, and she's still a member of the team.
Yeah, so it's
Way to do your background work there. Man.
Yeah.
Good
So
job.
there's no like standing team, right? Like it's all event based.
Yeah.
So she's she's a core member of the women. And right now they're like all the top players are centralized in Alberta for the year leading up to the Olympics. 'Cause it's, I guess like 8 months away now, right? Or 9 months away.
That soon, eh? Holy jeez.
February next year, right?
Okay.
So they won't like name the team officially again until close to that event. But yeah, she's a very good hockey player. I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, nice.
She's much better than I am.
that was my next question.
Always was.
That's awesome. Yeah, Jay was going to ask you before, or he mentioned, he said, so I'm going to ask Graham how it feels to be the least successful member of his, his family.
You only got into law school and became a lawyer? Come on.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So my sister almost went to law school too, and I was like,
Jesus.
We have nothing on this girl. Jesus Christ.
He got out on the outdoor rink the next day. So, I'm going to go play for the Timmins Rock.
Had to go Dean Youngblood it in the corner and try to get better. Remember do you remember Youngblood? No? Have you watched that?
no.
Oh,
best.
you
We talk about
have
all the
to
time.
watch
Best hockey movie
Youngblood.
we've ever
It's
seen
the
in our
best
life.
hockey movie ever. The guy essentially gets tries out for this team. He's like this young gun. Well, I guess as the name would suggest. But he gets on this team and then he gets kicked off the team because he won't fight. And he goes back to work at his parents' farm. And for what is obviously still within the span of that season.
No, not even season. Within that series.
Yes, the series.
It was still in the same playoff
playoffs.
series. Yeah. So he doesn't fight the guy from the one team, gets kicked off, goes home, goes to the farm. I'm going to take it over. Gets better somehow, fights his dad to learn how to fight because his dad's mad at him, so he beats the shit out of him on the outdoor rink. Then he's like, okay, I know how to fight now. And then goes back and like, I want to play again. Literally just missed like a game.
So the moral of this movie is like, you do have to fight and like change your.
Yes.
It's like it's like Grease, right? Like if you can't get the guy, you've got to just like become him, put on the black tights and smoke a cigarette, and you're in.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
Don't believe in yourself. None of that shit. It's change and be exactly opposite of what you do.
Your convictions are wrong.
The 80s were a different time.
Oh, great time. Great time.
There was a lot of tough love in the 80s, I think. Eh?
Yeah.
Well, especially in sports movies.
But they had the great billet scene.
The old lady who sleeps with the billets.
Yeah, sleeps with the billets.
Have you been? Do you follow hockey at all?
Not a lot. I mean, I watched some playoff games like most, but I'm one of those guys that like when people start talking about sports, I just don't understand how they have the time in their life to have all the information in their head that they seem to.
Yeah. You're so right about that. I feel like now, especially with kids, I have such a hard time. Like I haven't watched an NHL hockey game in, I don't know. I don't even know when. Like I can't say, like the playoffs are like the finals are on right now, and I feel like maybe I'm too busy podcasting. No, the last time I watched a hockey game was when we had John Belanger on here, and he was getting mad. He didn't understand why we would even want to watch that.
So I can understand how people like are a fan of a team and they know everything about all the players on their team, but then they start talking about like some other team in the other conference and they can name like the fifth defenseman on that squad and their stats. It's just like, would you get up 3 hours in the morning at 5 a.m.
Just study
like, before work, just study news articles about hockey?
But I think that brain space is occupied and is
Nothing
not.
else?
Yeah, there's nothing else
Yeah.
in there. Well, I don't know. I don't want to judge people too much because I know some very, very smart people who are very well in tune with many sports. But I think that's a small minority of people. There are some people that's where they spend their time, and if you talk to them about geopolitics, they'd probably just.
Whereas we can just like recount all the plot details of every episode of Paw Patrol for the last.
That's very true. Yes.
My brother's all
Paw
about
Patrol.
all the different tank engines and Tom's tank engine.
Oh,
There's a lot.
yes. That's a phase.
Yeah. But
you'll get past.
I always liked about big, sport guys and hockey guys and all that. It's, we did great last night. oh man, hey, how are you guys gonna like take care of this? I don't know, man. We're in trouble about that. We gotta find someone to really bring us up. It's like, you're not part of the fucking team. First of all, you're playing
that, right?
You're playing beer league in Timmins. You are fat as shit. You're not part of the team.
You're fat as shit.
It's like, enough of this. Like, I that always drives me nuts. Like, I always liked a certain team. I've always liked certain players, but I've never had this ownership on these guys that I thought that, well, we got to do something, get rid of this asshole. He's not doing enough lately. And, it's like, we're going to have to go talk to the ownership soon because I'm not really liking this.
And yes, they're going to hear you. They'll give you a fair hearing.
Exactly. So does your dad hate you for not liking any sports and just really into your sister?
So he was a hockey player too. So they
so
get
yeah,
along
so
great,
he, so he does like her more.
No, I played growing up, but after high school, just both wasn't nearly good enough to keep playing.
Like us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No.
But what I'm worried about is like, so now I live in Timmins, and if my son is any good at hockey, and he's going to want to play because he's going to see his aunt and be like, yeah, I want to be like her. And if he's any good, I have to be driving all over this
on terrible
We should
highways.
talk to our parents.
Oh man,
killed us half the time.
Get in the Honda Civic and drive to Kapuskasing to play 2 games.
Yeah, and
in
come
one
back
day.
in this freaking blizzard.
Yeah.
Oh
garbage.
god. The worst of doing that was we would go off to Iroquois Falls or Cap or whatever, and then you just do something stupid on the ice. Corey did it pretty often. I did it maybe more often. I'm not sure. Really stupid stuff. Then you're like kicked out, and then literally like you're just like, shit, I got to sit for 2 hours in the vehicle with my father, who's either the coach or the manager. Our father's always coach, and you just have to listen to this and just get like yelled at for 2 hours on the drive back. It was the worst experience ever. You just sit there because you had nothing to say, because by that point you're over whatever you did, like, and you understood maybe I shouldn't swung my stick at that kid. Like, shit, and you're just sitting in that car just like, fuck, I want this to be over. I want to get home. And it's just, and I would be pissed off being a parent. Like, I drove you all the way there. You did the dumbest shit possible. I got to drive you back in this blizzard. I want to kill you. Like, I would just left the kid there.
No, but the traveling part is, I can definitely see how it occupies your weekend like crazy. It just, you end up not having time to do anything else. And at one point I was kind of sitting there and kind of anticipating it, that, you know what, if my son wants to play hockey, then that's what he's going to want to play, and we're going to have to do it, right? We're going to have to deal with it as a family. And I felt like I started thinking about it afterwards, being like, well, maybe I can just encourage him and nudge him in a different direction,
Right,
like
the drama.
I told, well, we said this, if we had to do it again, we'd probably I've reinvented myself after after stopping playing hockey, and I started playing music after, but I realized afterwards that I should have played music all along.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's
what's going to pull more tail? Yeah, what's going to pull more tail? At the freaking party, the kid with the guitar.
It's the guitar,
yes.
Yes.
Not who gives a shit if you can skate.
And the kid with the guitar is not going to have to get driven around the entire province in a snowstorm by his parents to go on the ice with blades strapped to their shoes.
Or get arrested.
Or yeah.
Well, we've heard a lot of hockey games that the cops were called.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So, what?
Trump.
Oh yes, that's what we were going to talk about. Okay, so announced today that Donald Trump was going to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord, and again, referring back to the email thread that you and Jason had, you talked you mentioned that you were on the political side of things. You were more of a progressive person, so I would assume that this is probably not. It's probably not surprising you, but it's probably not something you're very happy about.
The withdrawal from Paris?
Yeah.
Everyone's happy about that. Come on.
Yeah.
Some people are happy about it.
I guess maybe I'll say that I wasn't so excited about Paris in the first place, because I feel like it, wasn't enough. So I guess maybe I'm just like, I don't ever think it was going to work, and it's a matter of time before it imploded, or certain countries just weren't going to do it. It doesn't have much teeth, like most international law. So I guess I'm not as worked up about it, but I mean, obviously think it's a step in the wrong direction. I mean,
I like though how now you've seen statements from China and other and the European Union and other countries saying, "Oh, we're doubling down because of this. We're going to ramp up our stuff."
It's like a fuck Trump.
Yeah, fuck USA, which is kind of like awesome. Actually, that might be what you need. Maybe you need this backlash coming up to us. You know what? We're going to do more.
Maybe that's the positive thing, right? There's been articles all over the U.S. media today since that announcement. The U.S. is no longer. Oh yeah, the U.S. is no longer a leader. Like they've abdicated their position as the world's leader, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Maybe some other countries will think, well, now China has to step up, or the European Union, or whatever, and we'll do it without them.
Is there a bit of problem with that though? Like I think some people would argue that having China and Russia in a leadership role in the world might not necessarily be the best thing for the world, right? These corrupt democracies,
single party democracies.
Yeah,
really,
exactly, pretty much. But that's a whole other thing. Going back to the issue of climate change, I feel like this is something, and this kind of speaks to your issue that you had about Paris not going far enough. I feel like on this issue we've been spinning our wheels for decades now. And I mean, I don't completely discard the people who are like, well, isn't the world supposed to be ending by now? We haven't done the things that they were telling us we needed to do imminently 30 years ago, and it's 30 years now, and the world's still here and we're still functioning. I don't think, I'm not a denier at all. I think the science is pretty clear that it's there, it's man-made, and it's happening. But do you think that the idea that we're going to stop polluting the planet is actually a feasible solution to this? Do you think that we're better off dealing with the ocean levels rising and relocating people and, I don't know, like political solutions rather than try to think about this ideal world where we're all going to get on the same page?
But okay, you've met politicians.
Sure.
Some have been great, some maybe not. As
everyone who's been on this program has been great, other than Jason Boissonneau.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Look, I gotta say, I don't think we need a political solution. We want the Elon Musk type of people to come in and fix these solutions. We want practical solutions that can fix things. Where I don't think a political thing like, well, would this be better if we move them, or would this be better if we went this way? But no, we need to. All right, how do you fix this? How do you maybe not? Obviously not gonna be able to reverse, but remedy some of the problems, and also stop it increasing to exponential amount. I think that's what we need to do. And yeah, okay, maybe Paris wasn't end all be all, it wasn't far enough, but would not going far enough mean, well, then fuck it, we're not going to do it at all, let's walk away, because we're better off not doing shit at all? Well, I would argue, well, no, it might not be enough, but it's the step in the right direction. No, there might be some issues that need to be fixed and ironed out better, and okay, well, we can't be giving other countries longer to get into it and step in. No, we're going to set this, you have to speed it up. But I think the spirit of it, which I know these big UN haters and UN, it's a corrupt globalist, are against it. But the spirit of the whole idea does have merit, and actually should, I would say, should be followed.
Yeah, I agree. I was only saying that my disappointment is tempered by the fact that I didn't have the highest expectations for it in the first place. But, I mean, I think I would worry about putting too much faith in technology solving a lot of the problems. A couple of years ago, I read that Naomi Klein book, This Changes Everything, which is an interesting read. And she argues that if we just think that the Elon Musks and all those folks are going to solve the problems, or carbon capture and all those things are going to solve the problems, we're just going to do nothing else in the meantime. And then, those technologies are not going to pan out the way we expect them. And, we're all going to be screwed. But there's part of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I would just think that problems and these issues breeds innovation. That it'll be maybe not Elon Musk, but it'll be Elon Musk-esque. People will find that problem to fix that. To get a solution to that problem.
So not to sound too cynical on this, but if anyone who's denying it or is standing in the way of whatever the supposed agreed upon agenda is, got out of the way and said, yeah, you know what, we're all on the same page, we're all going to lower our emissions, we're all going to do all this, could we feasibly solve the issues? Or are we too far gone? Are we too...
So if you're too far gone, do you give up though?
No,
do you stop? I don't understand that argument.
No, I'm not saying it as an argument. I'm just saying that maybe the solutions don't lie in the technology and the
so where would the solutions lie?
Maybe the solutions are dealing with the effects of it. Because I think we're at the point where we are going to start seeing the effects of like the climate actually changing.
But so I get that, but like, okay, there's going to be there's the immediate effects that are happening within the next that we can't change. But is there going to be worse effects later on if we don't start halting and slowing that progress or that process of increasing whatever? Like, so yeah, there are going to be whatever. So we do have to have those solutions. Maybe those are those real political and real world solutions that we're like, hey, we have to deal with these things, but
we got to move these people.
Keep going? Do we just let this be?
No,
Judge Dredd, and he can't live outside of Megacity or whatever. It was Megacity, right? Dredd. Yeah, anyways, which would have been another great law movie. Really, judge, lawyer, and executioner. Fantastic.
Terrifying.
but like, do you just stop? No,
that's the kind of world I want to live
think
in.
Technology is the way to fix that stuff. Like, I would argue there's no other way to solve those problems but embracing technology and trying to get that stuff to trying to help and mitigate this problem. Like, there's no other way around it. You need the Elon Musk, you need the Steve Jobs type of people.
Esk. I like that you had that. Yeah, we need Steve Jobs. Bring him back.
Well, we could. Come on, let's.
Isn't that in the agreement somewhere?
Let's start working on freezing his body and bringing him back. And to be honest,
he's living in that little underneath crust world.
There you go.
That's what happened to Steve Jobs.
But I don't, like, what else could you do? And like, a lot of people are going crazy about Trump and different things he wants to do. I would say, as we know, I lean to the progressive side. But for me, okay, he wants to, they want to bring in sweeping reforms to, certain policies and getting rid of, same-sex marriages and getting rid of this and abortion laws.
That have to do with...
I'm saying they'll bring this stuff in. I don't, to that stuff, I'll be honest, whatever, change it, because we can fix that later. We can bring that back. We can roll it back.
Climate change, we can't.
But climate change and the effects on stuff, we can't. And no one here can argue, say, well, we shouldn't just empty out the boat motor oil and gas into the lake when we're done. No, we know not to do that. Mm-hmm. And the moment you do it, you cannot reverse that. So the thing about this climate shit is you can't reverse the impacts you make. It's hard to reverse it, or we haven't figured out how to reverse it yet. So I think we have. That's the only thing that really upsets me.
Case in point, the derailment and all the oil in the Matagami now.
You can't reverse that shit. Once it happens, it happens. So I find that
cleanups are just mitigations.
Shit pisses me off the most about Trump or about what they're going with is what they're going to start doing. You can't reverse it. It's going to be too late. That's the only thing that really upsets me about what they're doing.
Yeah. So if the world's going to take us down, it's going to take us down kicking and screaming, not complacently. Well, that said,
did I kill that argument completely?
Yeah, pretty much.
What a fucking asshole.
I think you did. Like, that was pretty brutal. Yeah. Anyways,
well, we got other stuff that
happened this week.
Not happened, but within the last little bit, like, we didn't talk a lot about. We've got a bit of time. We didn't talk a lot about.
You got a bit more time to spare. I know you gotta get back to your.
I'm good.
Your little one.
I want to hear a bit.
Oh, he's long asleep at this point.
This one option or story and when what's happening in the world or in Canada is changing laws in marijuana.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
That I think would be super interesting to talk about. Come on, we got another 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, we got lots of time. Don't even worry about that. My kids are asleep.
So I want to.
We're fine.
So Graham,
what has been your interpretation of this new kind of idea of introducing the legality of marijuana?
So the thing that I've thought about the most around this, like these changes coming, the frustration is that So I think marijuana should be legalized. I'll put that out there right away. I think it should be decriminalized. And, the harms associated with marijuana, I don't deny that there are some that exist, especially for younger folks. There's science around, mental health and that. But if you compare it to something like alcohol, it is not nearly as devastating as alcohol, even socially, right? What's frustrating is that a couple of years ago, the now government was talking about marijuana legalization because it's something that doesn't need to be criminalized. And now the conversation is all, we need to legalize marijuana, but we're doing it in order to really crack down on certain things around marijuana, and this will make everything safer. And this is sort of an argument from fear, which is just a complete disconnect from what I think they were talking about when they developed it. So that's frustrating, because I think we can just have a healthier conversation around just making this thing not a big deal, and like many other, if you want to call it a vices that are, something we don't encourage but is legal, and to each their own. So there's that aspect of it.
When I'd have this conversation with my wife about the whole legalization of marijuana, I always kind of envisioned this future where our my kids are going to grow up and they're going to go out to May Run in the bush, and they're going to make their stop at the beer store and the weed store, and it's going to be this kind of it's just going to be regular, right? The way we stop at the beer store, the liquor store, and pick up our booze for the weekend, it'll be just as socially acceptable. But one thing that helped me gain some perspective on this was I was speaking with my father-in-law about how the beer store used to be, that they wouldn't display any kind of beer paraphernalia, any beer packaging in the beer store. You went there, you knew what you wanted, they would give it to you in a brown paper bag, and you would leave. And it wasn't overly advertised the way it is now. And I think this is just a cycle thing, right? It's the process of social acceptance, because there's still a small part of society that still sees this as
reefer madness,
the devil's grass.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. As a criminal lawyer, I see a lot of files, and a lot of those files involve alcohol. Like, so many. There's very, very rarely do you see a file that is associated with violence and not alcohol, right? I have not once come across a file where the presence of marijuana in the fact situation aggravated things or made things worse. So when I see marijuana, it's because it's a drug charge, or occasionally like a driving charge, impaired driving by drug. So for me, my experience, I'm not as concerned about marijuana becoming more prevalent. I don't think it's going to lead to this epidemic of driving under the influence of marijuana. I'm not an expert, but what I've seen, the studies are that the impairment from marijuana, it lasts a very short period of time compared to certainly alcohol.
And it's so widespread already.
Yeah,
that
it's essentially legal as it is. You can go pick it up.
People are driving high all the time right now, and there's just there's no roadside test for it.
Soon.
Well, yeah, they're working on that. The one thing that struck me about this kind of proposal about legalizing it was how they've cracked down the sentences, the minimum sentences. I think that's what it is for selling marijuana to minors as compared to selling alcohol to minors, and I thought that was kind of fascinating to look at what they've implemented as penalties for certain crimes, and then you'll see certain news outlets compare that to things like sexual assault and even child luring and things like that, and some of the penalties being much harsher for marijuana.
Yeah, well, harsh penalties for drugs is not new to Canada, right? If most people were to look at what you get for some drug offenses compared to what you get for serially sexual assaulting a young person, you'd be shocked at about how low some of the sentences are in some cases compared to others. And it all came to a head, I think in the 90s out west, there were some cases around when heroin was becoming a big thing. People were going to jail for there was a 7-8 years for, first offense, which is nothing compared to the States. But, whereas people who were, convicted of sexual assault were, doing less than half that, right? So that's an interesting issue. But I think it's going to be strange that, we have this substance that is, for all intents and purposes legal for adults, heavily restricted, but legal, and is not a criminal code issue or Controlled Drugs and Substances Act issue. But if it's, to kids, it's a criminal law issue, unlike, alcohol and sale to minors, that sort of thing, right? I think it's political cover. Like, I think the Liberals want to be able to deliver on their promise and look tough on crime at the same time.
Yeah. I think that, and I guess that's what kind of annoys anybody who might not be looking at this through a political lens, and they're just looking at how this is going to affect daily life for Canadians, is they look at it and they say, this just doesn't make any sense. The laws don't make any sense. Why would somebody serve less time for, like you say, sexually assaulting a child compared to possession or selling marijuana, right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. That sentences for marijuana are that high.
Okay,
it's sentences for other substances, and there are people. Maybe fentanyl is a huge problem right now. People are dying, especially in Western Canada. You're going to see it here more and more. So you can understand why those sentences are so high. But we've always looked at drug trafficking, very harshly compared to some other crimes that you might be surprised at. How low sometimes the sentences are. And that's coming from a criminal defense lawyer.
Oh, Jesus. Well, Jay, you want to man the helm for a second? Because I got to...
Oh, yeah. So we do a super classy thing here where we just go for a piss whenever you have to. So
if you have to, don't
yeah. You don't
like right here?
Oh, yeah. Just go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just go mid thing, mid pod. No, I think it's interesting, but so... you've told the law side of it. I always think in the economic side of it. Not always, but I'd like to think about the economic side of it. And I've always said, what's the best? And I've always argued, what's the best way to sell this stuff? What's the best way for the government now has to control it? Would it be better, or what do you think? Do you think it'd be better? Because I have obviously my opinion, which I will share afterwards. Should the government be holding it? Or should be selling it, or should it be private enterprise? And do you see any issues either or?
I think the biggest thing to watch out for is if it's priced too high, so there's like a price inconvenience, or if it's too inconvenient to purchase, then the whole idea that this is going to kill the black market is not going to work, right? I mean,
the opposite.
I'm not a user. I have used, but it's not a regular part of my life. But if I did use it regularly, like say, if I was going for a beer, if I either have to go across town to the one location that has weird hours, or I have to pay more than I think I can pay my neighbor, then I'm not going to go there. Right?
You just go,
So I think that's what's going to happen with marijuana. If I was designing a system, I would probably, have some licensing scheme for who can sell it, but it would not be exclusively government.
Wouldn't be just in the LCBO in the corner.
And I don't really think people that go to the LCBO necessarily want to be going to the cannabis store at the same time. Like it's not the same thing.
And should you be mixing those products together? Should that be? It's almost like kind of you're promoting the idea of mixing these products together.
I mean, I think they should let private stores sell it, but have a licensing regime with inspections, to make sure that there's, not sales to minors and that sort of thing.
So the only thing I have, my idea of how this would be difficult if it was done in the private sector is that when you look at it's not like it's not a product that's as easily, I guess I don't want to say quantified. Like how many bottles of beer are being shipped out of X, Y, and Z brewery. So you know how many of these are being shipped out, and they know exactly where they're being shipped to. So if all these places are ordering all these cases all the time, yet their remittance to the government for their sale of alcohol and or whatever is much lower than what they've been buying all the time. Well, there's something going on, and that there's selling that should not be happening, because we had that technology now that these barcodes, we can track it all with that now. So we know that's not going on. Where, marijuana is, the idea is that since it's easily grown and easily produced, and it's you're doing by the weight, you're not really doing by the unit. I think it's a little more difficult to track it that way, and you can have, I think there's more room for nefarious selling, I guess. So I have a hard time seeing it done in private places like a cannabis culture or whatever, all these different stores. I actually kind of like it being in a government-controlled thing. Kind of like I like booze being sold in a government-controlled, which is, everyone hates me for saying it all the time, and I get it. I've been to Alberta, Quebec, you pick it up at the corner store, you get going. But I have yet to see someone give me the argument on what brings in more money to the government. Government-controlled liquor stores.
That's always your goal, isn't it, Jason?
What brings more money? What government-controlled liquor stores, or private enterprise being licensed to sell it? What's going to bring us more in? Because, all right, you're saying, well, think about the tax dollars, Jason. Think about the tax dollars. Like, well, we're getting the tax dollars anyway, so we're selling it there, and we're charging tax. So you go pick up your Alberta premium. I got to think about the good stuff. There's going to be, and when you get that and your Old English right next to it, there's going to be the taxes on it. So, but the LCBO does not only collect taxes; it also collects profit. Yeah. The revenue they're making and the profit on that revenue, that is, they make that. So they don't make that on the other side. Will they make more? Do they make more profit than they would make in licensing fees to everyone else and taxes? Because it'd be, right now we have profit and taxes versus licensing fees and taxes. What makes more money? And I've yet to see any argument. And the thing that bothers me about the conservative parties that want to push this stuff, they never give you. They should have a think tank going on. Even if they made up this number, showing we're going to make more money this way, they never bring that argument up ever. They always say free enterprise, but they never say what the dollars would be.
Yeah, but see, you live in Timmins, right? So your beer store is open later than my beer store in South Porcupine, which closes at 6 p.m. So that's why I want beer in more places, and that's why I would want marijuana in more places.
See, but the argument is, like what you're saying there, is the Conservative Party doesn't make the argument that what's going to bring more money into the government, because that's not a conservative argument to make.
But they always say that. They'd say this is, but their argument is that if more people sell it, think about all the licensing and all we'll raise taxes out, or we'll be able to sell more.
Yeah, but any conservative argument is going to argue on how to keep more money in people's pockets, including business owners, especially business owners. So that's.
But one of the arguments I found, one of the arguments is that they're saying this is killing. It's a loss. We're losing money with this LCBO. Like we could be making more money. I hear that argument. We can make more money. We're losing money.
The government can't make more money than with the LCBO. It can just leave more money in people's pockets.
Yeah. But that argument's never there. But they never show the dollar value. And you say the dollar value, how much they make versus what they save, you leave in your pocket. But if the government's making more tax dollars here, they don't have to. If they have a constant revenue stream, they don't have to tax you as high on other options. What is saving actual more money?
I don't know if you've noticed, but people these days have a very big distrust of the government. I don't know if you've been online at any time, but people have a huge distrust of how the government spends their money, so they would much rather have it in their own pockets. So. I'm sounding like I'm slowly making my way to the other team that I was talking about earlier. We had the mayor on last week, and you were mentioning that you checked it out, and we got a lot of hate. I don't know if you saw some of the comments that came along with that.
Yeah, so I think it was you, Corey, that was saying, like, after there's a council meeting, there's always an article that follows, like the hate article. Yeah. So I have the same sort of feelings about those. I have to say, I was really skeptical of our mayor when he was first elected, because he had run as a PC, and that's not my party. And I thought, if that was his judgment in running for that party, then I'm probably not a fan of his. But I am a huge fan of his since, because I feel like we have a council that, like, there's people who want us to have nice things, right? Or at least willing to, like, try new things.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, people who want to do nothing except occasionally repair a pothole. I'm like, if we got a family, I want, like, a sports facility and things in Timmins. Otherwise, won't want to live here.
So
See, this is a perfect
and the haters who hate us,
point.
the haters are like,
There you
oh,
go.
these two guys that just do whatever. Well, we have someone who's professional who
come from out of town to live here,
and say the
chosen
same
to
shit.
live in
Yeah.
Timmins. No, and I mean, I think that there are some people who make what appear to be valid points, and I'm gonna, not to come back around on this, but we're gonna talk a little bit about this Stars and Thunder thing, because
What's that?
I don't know, coming up in a couple of weeks, I would assume that this is more or less falling into the category of things that you're referring to, right? The investments or okay, let's not call it investments, spending that city council is making for us to have things that happen here, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this event in specific, there are people who are just absolutely against it because they look at the price tag and they say, that's too expensive. We can't do that. We shouldn't do that. Don't spend my money on that. And there are people who have arguments about how it came about. Mm-hmm. And I think those people need to be kind of delineated, because I don't have intimate knowledge about the entertainment industry. I don't know if it should have been brought about this way, if everything was done kosher. But on its face, are you able to comment on that? Like, do you? What do you see about?
Like when I'm talking about things that I want to see the city like try and do and actually invest money in the city, I'm talking about things like, like a new athletic facility, core government functions that I think need investment, haven't been invested in nearly enough over the past 3 decades. We can't just have roads, right? So the Stars and Thunder, like, it's a little bit further outside that box than those other things. Mm-hmm. But I'm sort of prepared to go with the mayor and council on this. I really hope it works out. We bought our tickets on opening thing. We bought family members tickets. Like, we're really excited about it. But there's that risk there, right? Like, I'm a little bit nervous about it. Mm-hmm. And Steve's political future probably rests on it. Oh, yeah. But I think in Timmins, this is Timmins. You have to try some new things and outside the box thinking, because we cannot just be like a mining town, right?
And we can't just be, and I think the people who are the most vocal about it they talk a lot about taxes, right? And where the money is going to come from if this thing loses money. And I feel like there are so many, maybe the anger is misplaced. Like, there might be so many other places that you could focus on. Like, if this thing lost $1 million, let's say, like, has anybody taken the time to figure out what that means for a tax burden on regular Joes? Like, has anybody figured out, like, oh, okay, you know what, are they going to be able to pay this off with a revenue from another area or anything like that, right? Like, if this loses money, it's still something that's positive that's gone on in our community. But like, what's the impact, right? Tell us what the impact is on us. You just say, oh, well, $1 million, it's a lot of money. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of money until you divide it, along the amount of people residences and businesses that pay taxes,
and then economic benefits that come from the event.
There
right?
you go.
That
exactly.
Hard to quantify, but
yeah. So it might be worth it in the end, right? Not to say that anybody wishes this thing to lose money. We want it to be a success, and especially politically, you probably want it to be a success, especially if you're on the same page as our mayor and council, because if it is a success, it's something that they can campaign on or whatever.
Hang their head on.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Like, I feel like I have such I can be sympathetic to people who want our local government to spend their money wisely, but I've said this before, and I feel like I'm not completely how can I say unsympathetic to people who have a bit of a conservative bent to them, because I do understand this idea of fiscal responsibility. But if there's any level of government that's going to have that kind of discretionary impact on our lives, it should be the local government. That's the level of government we deal with every day. If you want to get outraged about things, get outraged about the way the province and the federal government spend your money. That's I don't know. I feel like you that impacts your life so much more on how much money gets actually extracted from you.
Yeah.
And
you see
how
little,
much you actually see of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
should be vice versa. You know?
Yeah, if
the
anything,
local government should be taking more money, and because what decisions they make actually affect you on a personal basis, on a daily basis. Whereas federal government, you get rid of postal service, sucks. But how much does it really affect you in the long run?
Like the difference between not having garbage pickup,
Yeah.
or running water,
Yeah.
and the difference between having to walk to the corner to get your mail.
Yeah.
So I have to get my mail at the Porcupine Mall between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m.
No,
so.
that's,
And there are people in my neighborhood who have signs that say, like, save door to door.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, like, you need to sign this as institute door to door. Like, you haven't, it's not there.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's never been there. They probably had it in the 70s.
Yeah.
Also, who gets anything in the mail that they actually like to
Exactly.
get right now?
Nothing.
So-
It's all junk mail and bills.
Yeah. A couple bank statements, but it just kind of gets depressing. You're like,
Yeah, but
ugh.
like anybody can sign up for
Online.
that stuff online now. Like,
Yeah.
But what about people who don't want to be connected to Big Brother, Corey? Huh?
well,
Tell me
if
that.
you're getting hydro, and if you're complaining about hydro prices, you are connected to some form of grid. That said, you know what, and this is kind of coming full circle to where we started this whole podcast on the complaints that we got about our podcast last week. It's just, it seems like a reality that in any community, there's going to be people who complain and who aren't on the same page as the people who are in office. Maybe just now it's more pronounced because of social media and
People have a platform.
Yeah, and I think
For all those people that are like negatively complaining, there are people that are like contacting the city or their counselors to say that they are excited about things and want things. They're just less vocal, I think, on social media. Like,
I suppose a vocal minority though who speaks or outraged more, and I think it just you'll see it more. It draws the eye a bit better. Whereas, it's people who are for it are indifferent. They just don't really care. Like, are you going to bring anything up or comment on a Facebook page?
but there's people out there that are really excited about new things in Timmins. And there's new businesses. There's a bunch of young people's new businesses in Timmins. They want to see, new stuff here. But I mean, I'm waiting. I think my wife contacted Steve or the mayor, His Excellency, or whatever,
Excellency.
I like that.
to like
Dear
find out.
leader, Steve.
We're eager to find out like when there'll be like a donation campaign for the new like aquatic center, because we want to like be a part of that. But those people are out there.
That's a whole and I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad that we have one on the podcast here, because it's kind of demonstrating, and it's true when I say that you're a little bit of a case in point of what people who've grown up here who are buying into this have argued, is that if we want more people like Jay and I guess we'd be considered young. We've kind of planted roots here. Like I'm raising my family here, but I've grown up here. I've seen all of this before, right? But if we want to attract more people so that we can have not only youth retention but youth attraction to our community, you have to have the amenities that are going to keep the people here.
And we grew up here in the 90s. There was nothing here in the 90s. There was nothing going on. Everything was
Shania Twain Center. Was it there yet?
that was late.
It came later.
See, I missed it.
Yeah, but it was, and even there, that was an exercise in like budget cutting.
Yeah.
It was just like there was huge plans for it, and then it just became
Nothing.
this kind of what
Empty
was
shell.
eventually torn down for another mining project.
But I just find that there was nothing here in the 90s. Everything was closing up. Well, the lumber industry essentially was starting to take a dive, and then really took a dive. And you ask anyone what was going on here in the 90s, nothing.
Tax bills weren't going up. That's I'll tell you that much. That and that's what people would say. Some people look back on the days of Vic Power, and they say that it was the best time
because they paid less in property tax, but there was fuck all. There was nothing.
Well, not only was there fuck all, there wasn't the preemptive investments into our infrastructure that needed to be made that are now coming. Coming due, and everything's having to be done at the same time. The fact that we're building wastewater plants in both ends of the city, and then we're also trying to do the connecting link.
All the same, within the same 10 years. That's a
ridiculous amount of work to try to take on. Never mind, like in one council term.
Yeah.
right? Like I'm glad that we have what appears to be a proactive council, and they want to get this stuff done.
Actually, I think it's reactive. Actually, it's proactive in a way,
it's
but
as proactive as it can be, right?
Yeah.
So,
because we can sit back and say, well, you know what, we don't need that yet. We can wait till the pool falls apart more, or we can wait till this falls apart more, because we should just be repairing potholes, and that's it. Forget about anything else, just repair potholes.
Yeah.
But when you're being mandated by government agencies because your wastewater is not up to snuff, guess what? You got to get to it. You got to do it. And like I said,
we've said this before, that there's people, like there's kind of two classes or two groups of people in town, and I don't know. It's so hard now when you look at the voices that are online to say which is the minority and which is the majority, right? But I'm glad to hear that there are some voices out there that, like you say, there are some people out there that understand or that buy into this, right? There's the people that say batten down the hatches and like let's prepare for disaster, and there's people who say no, this is the time that we need to be pushing forward and creating a new identity for our community, right? So,
well, I've had, and I'm not sure if you have anything to add in, so I'll keep talking. I usually do. I've actually had almost a similar debate with a former, I guess almost political rival, someone I ran against for council, which we both lost, so who gives a shit? But it's the current president of the Taxpayer Association. We were arguing. She was saying we should not be paying, putting this money into a pool or paying money into this. We should be looking at that thing because businesses, when times get tough, they batten down, they stop spending, and you just take care of the bottom line. Where my argument was, well, no. Guess what? Companies that succeed and do well, like the Apples, like the Googles, like the whatever, when it gets times get tough, you R&D, you grow, you go look, or what can we acquire to get out of this rut? We need to get better. We need to invest properly and smartly and strategically so we can get the hell out of this. Apple spends a shitload of money in R&D. Maybe not. It doesn't look like so much now because everything looks the same.
They're just removing things off their phone now. They added a bunch of stuff, now they remove
it. But it's just that's the time to invest. And so when we say, well, the city should be run like a business, well, should we be looking, if we want the city to be run like a business, should we be looking at the businesses that do the best? If we do, guess what? The city should be investing then. The city should be growing. It won't be in R&D, but they'll be investing in infrastructure so we can get better. And so later on, we won't be in the issue we would be in if we just sat there and just let shit fall apart around us.
Yeah.
I think Steve was making the point last week that like cities shouldn't be judged as businesses, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
Like it frustrates me when I hear people make that, not you, Jason, like people make the sort of like, well, we have to break even on this or we have to make a profit on this. That's not what government is for, right? Like I think to me, if we can collectively spend money more effectively on things that we all benefit from, then that's what the idea is, right? So,
well, the reason why, and I think that one of the things that has to be clear is that businesses and government are fundamentally different. The one is that one's mandated to make a profit. The city's not. Like the city's not there to make a profit, and the idea that like a business can shut down. Does the government shut down? Does it go away?
When Michigan and Detroit and all that declare bankruptcy,
they're still there.
They're still there. They still have to offer services.
Like somebody still has to.
They didn't just walk away.
Bring water. People still have to maintain the roads. Like, does the city just go away? The only. I guess that's the only way.
Delta City took over. RoboCop, no, come on.
Another RoboCop reference.
Come on.
Judge Dredd. All right, we're gonna sit here next time, and we would love you to come back on the podcast.
Absolutely.
We really had a lot of fun with you tonight. Maybe we can just sit here and watch 80s movies next time.
Yeah, and teach you and just bring up the snuff with these fantastic.
You have a great education so far, but wait till you get an education.
Real world education.
Beer and bullshit you. Anyways, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. Right. I don't know. We've taken enough of your time tonight. Where can people find you online if they want? I guess if they need to find you. Most people probably don't want to have to find you, but
yeah. So I have a Facebook page. It's just Google Graham Jenner, criminal lawyer. That'll come up.
So criminal lawyer, are you a lawyer for criminals or you are a criminal
criminal common lawyer? Yeah,
okay.
no. No, not there. And I work at Evans, Bragagnolo Sullivan in Timmins. So the website there, ebslawyers.com, is a way to find me. But I hope you and your listeners don't require my services.
Yeah, I hope so too. But if we ever do, no, I think we would love to have you back in to kind of periodically comment on these legal things that come up and give
awesome.
the legal perspective on things if you'd be interested.
I had a great time, so anytime you guys want.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, anybody who hasn't subscribed to our podcast, please do so. Check us out on iTunes, on Facebook, on Google Play, anywhere you can listen to people talking. And there we go. All right. That's the selfie for tonight. Instagram post. Anyways, thanks a lot for joining us this week. And Jason, do you have any words of wisdom to give us? He actually looked something up tonight.
All right. So this quote is from Thomas Jefferson. Beer, if drunk in moderation, softens the temper, cheers the spirits, and promotes health.
Wow. Wise words. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys. Join us next week.